Part 1. Introduction. Have you ever wondered why people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s are increasingly being diagnosed with diseases we once thought only affected the elderly? Hello and welcome to today's episode. I'm absolutely delighted to have you here with us. Before we dive into today's incredibly important topic, I want to take a moment to say a heartfelt thank you. Thank you for subscribing to our channel, for sharing our episodes with friends and family, and for being part of this community. Your support means everything, and it's what allows us to continue bringing you content that matters. So truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Now, today we're going to explore something that should concern every one of us, regardless of our age. We're talking about a disturbing trend that's been quietly unfolding over the past few decades: the dramatic rise of colorectal cancer, also known as bowel cancer, in young adults. And more importantly, we're going to examine the evidence pointing to a potential culprit that might be hiding in plain sight, right in our kitchens and on our dinner plates. This isn't about fear-mongering. This is about understanding rigorous, peer-reviewed scientific research and what it tells us about the choices we make every single day. So let's get started. Part 2. The changing face of cancer. For generations, cancer was understood as a disease of aging, something that predominantly affected individuals over the age of 60 or 70. And while it remains true that the majority of new cancer diagnoses still occur in people over 70, we're witnessing a subtle but deeply troubling shift in this pattern. Some cancers are increasingly appearing in younger populations. Let me give you a specific example. Colorectal cancer, which affects the bowel. While rates of this cancer have actually declined in people over 60, data from numerous developed countries shows something alarming: a sharp increase among people under the age of 50. This is what medical professionals call early onset disease. Now, you might be thinking, well, maybe we're just getting better at detecting it. Maybe screening programs have improved. That's a reasonable question, but here's the thing. This increase isn't simply due to wider screening or better diagnostic tools. In fact, in England, the National Health Service bowel cancer screening program only covers people aged 50 to 74, inviting them for free screening every 2 years. This means younger people, those in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, are excluded from routine screening. They're usually only diagnosed at a late stage, when the cancer has already spread and they've become symptomatic. And this pattern isn't isolated to one particular country or community. We're seeing it globally, across multiple nations and diverse populations. So what's driving this increase in young people? Well, we can rule out genetics right away. It's estimated that 75% of early-onset colorectal cancer cases occur in people with no previous family history and no known genetic predisposition. In other words, 3 out of every 4 young people developing this disease have no hereditary explanation. This led scientists to start looking elsewhere, specifically at environmental factors that have changed since the 1960s. What they've discovered is fascinating and concerning. With each passing generation, people have become more likely to develop colon cancer than the generation before them. And one factor keeps emerging in study after study as a major culprit: ultra-processed foods. A 2025 review published in the prestigious journal Nature Reviews Endocrinology has highlighted these links in detail. But what exactly are ultra-processed foods? Roughly defined, they're factory-packaged snacks, ready meals, sugary cereals, soft drinks, processed meats, and many types of fast food. And here's the staggering part. These foods now make up more than 50% of the average diet in countries such as the United Kingdom and the United States. Let that sink in for a moment. More than half of what many of us eat comes from a factory, not a kitchen. Part 3. Now let's look at the numbers, because the scale of this increase is truly remarkable. The rise in early-onset colorectal cancer incidence is both real and global. In 1990, there were approximately 94,700 cases worldwide. By 2019, that number had skyrocketed to 225,736 cases. Think about that. More than doubling in less than 30 years. A comprehensive study conducted across Europe found even more specific trends. For people aged 20 to 29, the incidence of colorectal cancer rose by 7.9% per year between 2004 and 2016. For those aged 30 to 39, rates increased by 4.9% annually during roughly the same period. And in the 40 to 49 age group, the increase was 1.6% per year. What's particularly alarming is this. Not only is colon cancer increasing in every age group under 50, but the growth rate is highest in the youngest cohort, those in their 20s. Current modeling suggests that early-onset colorectal cancer could double every 15 years in Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom, and the United States. But here's where it gets even more interesting and more concerning. The evidence specifically implicating ultra-processed foods is growing stronger by the year. A major study published in the British Medical Journal examined 3 large cohorts in the United States to investigate the association between ultra-processed food consumption and the risk of colorectal cancer. One of these cohorts involved more than 46,000 men who were tracked over a period of 24 to 28 years. This is the kind of long-term, rigorous research that allows us to draw meaningful conclusions. And what did they find? Compared with the group that consumed ultra-processed food the least, those who consumed the most had a 29% higher risk of developing colorectal cancer even after accounting for overall nutrition quality and weight. Let me repeat that. A 29% higher risk independent of other dietary factors and weight. The authors of this study conclude that further research is needed to fully understand the physiological mechanisms of exactly how ultra-processed foods contribute to cancer development. But the association is clear and compelling. Now, here's something that might surprise you. Much of the previous research linking ultra-processed foods to cancer has focused on their role in obesity, which is itself a major risk factor for numerous types of cancer. But this study points to something else: the growth in colorectal cancer among people of normal weight. This raises a fascinating and troubling question. Could it be that ultra-processed foods may be carcinogenic regardless of someone's body mass index? In other words, are these foods harmful to your health even if you maintain an active lifestyle and stay within a healthy weight range? The emerging science suggests the answer may be yes. Diets high in ultra-processed foods have been linked to several harmful biological processes: disruptions in insulin signaling, chronic low-grade inflammation, and alterations in the gut microbiome. All of these mechanisms are implicated in cancer development. What we eat directly affects how our cells grow, how our immune systems function, and how our gut bacteria behave. And that gut microbiome, those trillions of bacteria living in our intestines, plays a crucial role in regulating inflammation and immunity throughout our entire body. Emulsifiers, additives, and artificial sweeteners that are commonly found in ultra-processed foods have been shown in animal studies to actually promote intestinal inflammation and tumor growth. Meanwhile, the lack of fiber and protective phytochemicals, those health-promoting compounds found in plants, in ultra-processed foods can alter the gut microbiome in ways that prevent the body from functioning optimally.
Part 4. So, where does all of this leave us? Well, it's worth remembering that scientific understanding evolves over time. It took decades before society fully accepted that tobacco causes lung cancer, or that alcohol raises the risk of breast and liver cancer. The evidence had to accumulate study by study, year by year. We may be at a similar turning point right now with ultra-processed foods. The next decade may well see the inclusion of ultra-processed foods as a key risk factor for colorectal cancer, particularly in young adults. And I want to be clear about why I'm sharing this information with you today. It's not to scare you. Rather, it's to help you reflect on the recent research from rigorous long-term studies. The simple truth is this: what we eat matters more than most of us might think. Professor Devi Sridhar, who chairs Global Public Health at the University of Edinburgh, puts it beautifully. If smoking was the cancer villain of the 20th century, eating ultra-processed food may well be its 21st century counterpart. The science isn't yet completely settled, but it's building rapidly and consistently. And we have an expression that's been repeated so often it's become a cliché, but it's grounded in truth. Food is medicine. And as we're increasingly learning from cutting-edge research, food is prevention. In fact, there's even some encouraging news on the positive side. A 2025 study found that regularly eating yogurt may reduce the risk of developing colon cancer, which is a subset of colorectal cancer. So if there's one clear, actionable takeaway from everything we've discussed today, it's this: eat more yogurt and eat fewer ultra-processed foods. Now, does this mean you can never enjoy a convenience meal or a treat? Of course not. Life is about balance, and nobody's asking for perfection, but awareness is the first step toward making better choices. When you understand what ultra-processed foods might be doing to your body, not just to your waistline, but to your cellular health, your immune function, and your gut microbiome, you're empowered to make decisions that could genuinely protect your long-term health. Consider incorporating more whole foods into your diet: fresh vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, and yes, fermented foods like yogurt. These foods are rich in the fiber and phytochemicals that your gut microbiome needs to thrive. They support your immune system, they help regulate inflammation, and, as the evidence is increasingly suggesting, they may help you protect from one of the fastest-growing cancer threats facing young adults today.
Closing. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. I want to thank you once again for spending this time with me, for listening, and for caring about your health and the health of those you love. If you found this information valuable, I have a small favor to ask. Please consider subscribing to our channel if you haven't already. Share this episode with friends, family members, or anyone you think might benefit from this information. Leave us a positive comment or let us know your thoughts. We genuinely love hearing from you, and your engagement helps us reach more people who need to hear these important messages. And now, a very important disclaimer. The information provided in this podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking it because of something you've heard in this podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Take care of yourself, make mindful choices, and I'll see you in the next episode.